What's up, everyone? It's Joel here from the Splash Brothers, joined today with our good friend Alex, who is the latest winner of the Christchurch Hobby Series that's held every second week at TCG Collector on Elm Street. So shout out to TCG, Will and the team for hosting. Thanks very much. We really appreciate you getting behind the Christchurch community as we go through this. But tonight's highlight is all about Alex, who was the winner. We don't care about second, third, and fourth. It's all about number one. And that wasn't the Splash Brothers this time. Rough chats. But at the end of the day, we don't want to take any of the credit or the glory away from Alex, who just really played well. And so we're really, really proud of him. So Alex, welcome.
Thank you.
And what we want to do, first of all, is I want you to tell us about your round one matchup. Who did you play? What were they playing, and what thoughts did you have during the match?
The first match I played for the tournament was against a Leon's Charizard. Honestly, the first thing that crossed my mind was that I'm playing into a weakness, so that was already a tough matchup using my Zacians.
Yes.
In the game, I luckily managed to get my coating energy onto my Zacian, so I didn't have to deal with the double damage.
Yeah, totally.
Which means instead of single knockouts, I could last 2 hits against this Leon's Zard.
If you were lucky, if he wasn't getting those Leons in the discard.
Yeah, exactly. In the first game, he had some bad luck and only managed 1 Leons in the discard as well.
Yeah,
so I got quite lucky on that first
Yeah.
game. Second game, he managed to get 2, I think 3 at the very last turn or last second turn. But I managed to get both my Zacians powered up with my ADP. So it was just 3 quick knockouts and I managed to knock it out.
Yeah, what's the advantage of playing ADP against a one-prize deck like that? Like, as soon as you get your Alter Creation off, you're thinking to yourself, I only need a knockout at most 3 Pokemon. And then it's the match is quicker, less chance for a draw, because in the 45-minute match that we had, like, you can just slam through your matches quick.
Yeah, exactly. The 3 prizes with the ADP Ultra Creation really made it an easier game. Because he had some slow hands to start off with in both games, I knocked out a Charmander and something else he was playing the second game, so it was 2 prizes straight off the bat before he even powered up his first Leon's Zard.
Sorry about the noise, guys. We've got some aerial shots coming in of Alex and Joel.
That's right, the police are after us.
They know things.
They know things. As soon as that chopper goes away, we'll continue. Okay, cool. So, appreciate you filling us in there. For those of you at home, Leon's Charizard is probably the number one prize deck in format other than Baby Blacephalon. But really good getting past that anyway in the first round. So round 2, once again, who did you play and what thoughts did you have?
In second game, I versed a Center Scorch VMAX deck, which was also playing into a weakness, so that was already a disadvantage again. And not being a single prize, I knew that immediately I would have to play much quicker than the first games because I wouldn't have that build up. Because obviously he's playing Welders and Giant Halves to get his energy accelerated much faster than I can, unless I was lucky. First game, I was really lucky and also managed to get Coding Energy, so I managed to tank an extra hit from my Zacian before I knocked out his Center Scorch. After that, he played into his VMAX, and I managed to play one of my Zamazenta's, so he couldn't attack me through that, and he had trouble finding his boss's orders.
Because of the Dauntless Shield ability that Zamazenta has, which means that it takes no damage from any of your opponent's VMAX Pokemon.
Exactly, so even though he was fully powered up and playing arguably better at some of the points of that game, because he couldn't do any damage due to lack of boss's orders, I managed to be able to power up my other Zacian and then switch out and then knock out his VMAX before he can knock out my prizes.
Cool. So for those of you watching at home and you're thinking you're playing a steel type deck, even though the steel types don't have a major player in the VMAX market at the moment, and you're thinking about your opponents who are playing VMAXs and you want to be getting one of those Zamazenta V cards to put in there so that you can get around that. So it's a little bit of a tip and a teaser for you. Even though it doesn't hit for a lot of damage, when your opponent can't hit you, it puts you on the front seat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that. Okay, so round 3. Being 2 wins from 2, like obviously you're starting to feel like, you've been looking around, no one else that you could see was on 2 wins yet. You're starting to get some of those nerves about winning?
Yep. I'm notoriously nervous when I play tournaments online as well. Just come off a loss, coming second place in a tournament for the top 4 of Spellbound Games tournament. So coming straight after that, I was nervous going into those final 2 rounds, starting off at a good place, just like I was in that tournament.
Yep. Cool. Well, yeah, and it's just about trying to put those wins behind you and just focus on the game ahead. Just treating it like it's your first game of the tournament. There's nothing on the line at the moment. Like, just getting all those kind of negative thoughts out there, like, if I lose now, then I'll just be out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. So round three. Who did you play against in round 3?
I believe I versed Matthew with his Eternatus deck, which was one of the decks that I really didn't want to play, as quite good against ADP, and ADP's Asian struggles a lot against Eternatus.
Yeah, cool. So, what was your strategy going in? Or were you thinking, okay, cool, I'm going to focus on my Zamazenta, I'm going to get that out nice and early? Were you thinking about, no, I just want to swing in with my Zacian nice and quick? What was your strategy?
In the first game, I had terrible draws for about 4 hands in a row, and I scooped really quickly on that one. So I was already coming in, so I had to win the next 2 games immediately. That first game was just a disaster. I found no quick balls, I found no Guzmahara to find energy for my ADP. I couldn't do anything first game, so it was a quick scoop, and on to the next one. For the next one, I basically decided that I wanted to get my ADP powered up as soon as possible and then straight into the Zamazenta. Because he played Hiding Energies, I could knock those out with the Zamazenta and also not take the damage. I wasn't sure how many bosses orders he played at the time, but I managed to get quite lucky on those games and could tank a few hits of his before I got the Zamazenta fully powered up. And he didn't manage to bring in with the boss's order anything else to knock out before I won the games.
In your ADP deck, do you play cards like Big Charm or anything like that so that you can add extra HP to your ADP so you can maybe tank? So you can tank, because it has 280 HP, doesn't it? So it can tank a hit from Eternatus anyway.
Yeah, it can tank 1 hit. The Eternatus he was playing did play Zigzagoons, so that also made it quite difficult to keep up, because 1 or 2 of those was a guaranteed knockout, which probably 3 prize and you're already down half your prizes. I don't play any Big Charms, anything like that. All I play is Air Balloons as an item. I predominantly play with Guzmahara as my main ADP accelerator to search for my Aurora Energies, to get the Air Balloon out so I can switch in my Zacian when it's powered up, and a Karak Swell to hinder their Stadium, whatever they're playing. So I just managed to tank enough hits by swapping out switches to survive those.
Okay, cool. So for those of you at home, ADP is a unique kind of Pokemon in the game where it requires different kinds of energy in order to power it. So in order to use its Alter Creation attack to the maximum possible effect, it needs to have 1 Steel Energy and a Water Energy on it as well. You can get around that requirement by having a Steel Energy and a Aurora Energy. That way it can fulfill the requirement of Steel and Water with the 1 energy type. If you need to use it on a different kind of Pokemon. Do you run basic Water Energy in there?
I run a single basic Water Energy, which I find using Energy Spinners. I do also run 2 Aurora Energies I use as my predominant power-up for it. I play 2 Guzmaharas and 4 Tag Calls. I found that's enough that I can consistently, with the Tag Call, bring out a Guzmahara and an ADP and then power up that turn or the next turn, depending on what I start at, whether I can play a support or not.
Okay, cool. Because you're a bit of a different setup to what I've seen a lot of ADP decks playing. Obviously, no less effective than other ADP builds, because if it was, you wouldn't have won. So that's awesome. So no, that's awesome. It's just good to understand the distinctions between how you run ADP versus how some other people play ADP.
Yeah, exactly. I don't play any energy retrievals, any energy switches, anything like that. I basically only power up by middle sources or ADP's ability to attack.
And I think Magikarp has a question, so we'll throw over to him.
From this side of the camera team, I just wanted to ask you, Alex, what do you say to those people who say ADP is just a deck of champs, that it's too easy to play and that everyone would win competitions if they used it?
I think that ADP is a very good deck in the format. I think it still takes skill to play it and to know which version to play. I tried the energy retrieval and switches myself, and I couldn't make it work successfully. I found that playing Guz Mahalo of Tag Calls was a good way for me to play it.
Yep.
And obviously I played into Weakness twice and still won both of those, which still required skill. But obviously there's multiple archetypes of ADP that I did verse in the final round and still won against it. So even in Mirror, I was still successful that day. Maybe I won't next tournament, but that time I won.
Cool. And you play one copy of Oranguru in your deck, don't you?
Yeah, I play one copy of Oranguru. I find that in the format at the moment, with Marnies being so played by every deck, that if I can just save that one card I might need for the next turn, whether that's a final energy or water energy I need for the ADP to power it up, or if I need like an air balloon that would switch out my Zacian so I can hit a second time that turn and knock out, is a good thing just to have, is just a backup in case they Marnie.
Yeah, and I find I do the same kind of thing when I play now. So I've got a few decks that I'm currently running at the moment which use the Oranguru, the same Oranguru.
Yep.
And that's quite often what I do as well. If I find I'm about to end my turn and I might have like two supporters in my hand, one of which I feel like I really need to keep.
Yep.
Like for example, Boss's Orders, which is just such
one.
a valuable supporter to have. I quite often will Oranguru that to the top of the deck so that if they do Marnie me or they play a card that allows them to discard from my hand or something like that, I'm always going to have that boss because I'm drawing into it the following turn.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a really good strategy and a really wise way to play. Is just thinking about we're playing in an age where your hand just isn't safe.
Exactly, yeah. With things like Crushing Hammer, Marnies, and all those other sort of abilities that change your hand or discard cards, I find it super important to have an Oranguru in almost all decks to just safeguard that one card that could turn the game for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, very, very good way to think, and a good way to actually, because Oranguru's not in every ADP build.
No.
So it's just one of those little tweaks that you make just to give yourself so many more options and so many more situations. So, for example, for those of you at home, the other way you can use Oranguru, and this was mentioned in my Lucamail video that we posted this week as well, is that you can Oranguru a Steel Energy onto the top of your deck and then Intrepid Sword to end your turn, knowing that Steel Energy is going straight equipped onto your Zacian as well to help power it up a bit faster.
Yep.
If that's the way that the cards fall at the beginning of the game. It's just so versatile in the ways that you can use it in terms of saving cards, in terms of equipping cards, and all those kind of things. But it's the one thing that I've noticed from watching you play ADP is that there's a real structure and order that you play your cards in each turn.
Yeah.
And while playing ADP can seem extremely repetitive, it still takes practice and it still takes skill to make sure that you are fulfilling steps 1 to 4, for example, during a turn.
Yep.
Before you actually get to the penultimate moment of either attacking or whatever that might look like. And if you're missing those steps, well, then you're just not going to be executing the way that you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so personally, I don't think that ADP is a deck that just anyone can play. It's not a particular style that I like. But that's nothing against the deck, it's everything about just the way that I play the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, when the different versions of the energy switches, stuff like that, I didn't enjoy that type of play. I found like a more structured deck and how each turn functions really changed the deck for me. I also play Colossal deck as one of my main decks, and I find the Oranguru works in a similar way with the saving a card, which also translates to ADP.
Cool. So what we're going to do now, we're going to head into the final round.
Yep.
So you're playing against Salazar, who was playing an ADP deck as well.
Yep.
What kind of thoughts did you have knowing that you're going into another ADP?
Knowing I was going to another ADP, I wasn't sure which version he played. I hadn't seen anyone mention which sort of archetype he was playing, and when he started playing on the first game, he drew straight into an Aegislash as his first one.
Yeah.
So then it was, is he playing this as a VMAX version or just the single one if he's versing like a Decidueye, something like that, and I wasn't sure if he was going to bother powering that up at all. I drew a reasonably good hand and could power up my ADP with an energy, and I had a energy spinner in my hand, so I could find water energy next turn if I needed it. He drew a few poor bad hands, and I'd managed to get my ADP and his Zacian powered up. And then he eventually did play his Stage VMAX, which I slided in a Zamazenta and powered that up as well, which basically made his first game end pretty much then. He couldn't power up in time to counteract mine.
Okay, awesome. So for those of you at home, and you've been listening to Alex talk about ADP, the important thing about the deck is that it's so incredibly versatile, and there's so much going on there that it just allows you to be adaptive in so many different situations. So we encourage you to give ADP a go. Arceus, Dialga and Palkia from Cosmic Eclipse. Give the deck a go. Have a look on YouTube and places like there for some really great ADP builds and some tutorials, basic tutorials on how to play it. It's the #1 deck in format for 2020-2021 rotation, and we think that everyone should know how to play this, because it just allows you to step into the TCG world at the highest possible level. So thanks for coming in, Alex. Thanks for giving us your time and your perspective and your expertise on playing ADP.
Not a problem.
And we really look forward to seeing you at the next hobby tournament in 2 weeks' time.
Definitely.
And hopefully you can take it out again.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Tune in on Wednesday for our first video, Friday for our pack break. Shout out to Kevin at Cardmasters, and peace.